Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Family Tech Guys. I am your host, Ray Brown, and I am joined by my co host, Mr. Tech Guy Nate. Nathan, what's going on?
What's going on, Ray? It's been a fun process figuring out this YouTube live and the hiccups and whatnot. But you know what? I think we're getting better every time. You know what I mean? It's fun learning.
Yes. Eventually we'll get it figured out. But without testing, you can't discover new things. And so, eventually we will get it figured out. But it's been fun playing with it and having the highs and lows of is it working? Is it working? It is.
Yeah, it is
No,
hard
it.
testing sometimes whether or not a live stream's working unless you put busting out your phone, looking at yourself while you're streaming. You know what I mean?
All right.
So a lot
But
of it's been after the fact, troubleshooting and whatnot. But that's what you do, right? That's what a tech guy does.
That's right. That's right. So, if this is your first time joining us, this is Family Tech Guys, where we discuss technology and family. We discuss, just different things here and there about how technology just might affect families and what families can do to make technology better. Nathan and I, we honestly, we believe that every single household needs a tech savvy parent or a tech savvy guardian. Whoever-
Someone in that
Yeah,
family has
yeah,
to
yeah.
step up
Some
to the plate.
adult,
I
some
mean, like,
adult. Yeah,
if
somebody
you
needs to step up
don't,
to the plate, and
it's
yeah,
like having no one in the family that can't, that can cook, right? Someone in the family has to be the cook, or at least the person that goes and picks up the food, right?
man, that is true, Nathan. You know how expensive life can get if no one in the family cooks and you just eat out every day. And
Exactly.
man, you know what? I never looked at it like that. You know what? You know what? Hopefully, we get more nuggets like that. I am interviewing you today. I'm going to ask you some questions. I've known you for
Wait,
almost
I
two
thought I
years
was a
now.
host on the show. You're interviewing me? No, just kidding.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
yes, it's
am. So
exciting. It's exciting.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So actually, you know what? Let's get right into it. I'm going to ask you some questions today that I've never asked you before in your life in the whole 2 years that I've known you. And
Oh man.
so I don't know. Your answers may be somewhat interesting, maybe surprising. I don't know.
Yes. So I really am an orphan. What? No. What was you gonna ask?
Yeah. All right. So no, but so let's see. First question that I want to get started with, and I must say that you did an excellent job interviewing me last week, and so I hope I can live up to
Oh,
hopefully I can meet your expectations as a host or as an
I
interviewer
have no
interviewing you.
doubts. I have
Yes,
no
sir.
doubts.
Well, you know what? My very first question is going to be some low hanging fruits. I'm just going to straight up ask you, how did you become a tech guy?
Ooh. How
Yeah.
did I become a tech guy? That could be a story in and of itself. No, I look back. The roots have to be related to my history with video games. That was probably some of the first pieces of technology that I touched growing up. Because if we didn't have, I mean, cell phones didn't exist back then. I had a TV that you turn the turn the dial, you try to get the signal and those kind of things with the antenna. Um, Talking about gaming consoles that you hooked up with the coax cable, the one you screw in.
Oh
And
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I have memories of, this is a little bit further into my gaming career. I don't know if you remember the N64.
yeah, yeah.
There's
I
a
do
little game
remember it.
called GoldenEye that I'm sure every gamer has played. It's a first-person shooter. But this is back when they had split screen, the 4 split screens on the same TV.
Is that
And
the
me,
game, the GoldenEye, where I'm not GoldenEye,
James
but
Bond.
yeah, James Bond, where they had the golden gun?
Oh yes, the Golden Gun,
All right.
proximity mines, all
Yes.
that good fun stuff. It was a
Yes.
great game.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
this would be some of the roots. Is I you know one of the problems with the split screen is that you got to see where everyone else was on the map. So
Right.
I had hooked up a system. I took my sister's TV out of her room.
Mm-hmm.
I set 2 TVs up back to back. So like when you're facing it, it's hard to explain, but yeah, the TVs themselves were back to back. So the other person you were playing against didn't see it. And I split the coax video signal to both TVs, and then I taped paper on the cutouts,
Mm-hmm.
so only the people on your side can see the screens. So that's just like one little simple story of I remember first time just like
Ooh.
trying to solve problems like almost like a tech guy would,
Yeah.
because back then like I said you could almost cheat because you can just look at the other screens, see where they were on the map, cut them
Oh
off,
yeah.
get ready with your gun, your golden gun, boom, shoot them.
Right.
So it has to root back to gaming, I'd say. I mean, gaming was a huge part of my life all through my childhood. I still play games, not as much as I did back then for sure, but I still
Yeah.
try to play a little bit nowadays. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'd have to say that's how I got into technology in general. I didn't even own my first PC until after high school. That was one of the things. Our family couldn't afford a computer really.
Hmm.
I'd always go over to my grandparents' house and use the computer. Just once again fell in love with it. It was Windows 95 to Windows 98 era,
Yeah.
and just like, man, I want to get my hands on one of these. So when I graduated high school, the first thing I knew before I went to college is I needed to get a job because I didn't have a car or a computer, and those are two
Hmm.
things I just needed to save up for, and I did, saved up for them, got those, and then ever since then just been fiddling with computers and all that kind of stuff ever since.
Yeah. When did you graduate high school?
2000.
Okay. Okay. So this is around 2000 when you pretty much got your first computer, and before that, you didn't have a computer in home.
No, no, no computer. Just using between my grandparents, they had a
Hmm.
computer, and actually my next door neighbor, who it was an elderly couple that I used to help. Like I pull their weeds for them and stuff like that, and then I'd also help watch their dogs while they were gone.
Well, and they paid you in computer time. Here,
Well, they
son,
they
you
they would
earned
actually
5 minutes of
yeah,
computer time. No.
they'd pay me a little bit,
Yeah.
whatever you get, like $10 or something for
Right.
doing a little chore. But
Yeah.
when they were gone, and I would watch their dogs or whatever it is, like I would actually use them to go do homework on, because that was when I was in high school, it was actually an option where back then it was like you can handwrite your report or you can start typing it, like,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
was actually teachers back then actually still accepted handwritten stuff. Nowadays, I don't even think that's an option. I'm pretty sure you have to type it or they won't even accept
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but
And so I graduated in 2004, and I want to say by then, by the time I graduated, it had to be typed out, and margins had to be like set to 1 inch. Like it was a whole structure. Then
hmm
you had to have your a proper heading on the paper. Whereas if you were to turn in something written, you could just turn it in.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah,
There's little ways you can kind of cheat the system, like, oh, I'm going to go 1.25-inch margins and make that, yeah,
right,
go a little
right,
bit. Maybe instead of sites 12, go like a 13, 14 font, or
yeah,
it's 5 pages, teacher.
all right. So
So
that's
yeah,
Yeah, that's a pretty cool beginning. So it was something that was fascinating, like gaming, something that was interactive that pulled you in, and then it's pretty much you just went down a rabbit trail there because it was one thing led to another, which led to another, which got
yeah,
you to
yeah.
where you are now.
I've always had a fascination with how things like that work too. Like, how can I
Yeah.
make it do what I want it to do? And even before that, like, I was the first one on the block actually, and this must have came around the same time because I had to have had a job, but I got a It must have been right after my computer maybe, but I got it was at from Good Guys, I believe was the name of the store. It was kind of like a
Mhm.
Circuit City electronic store, and I got this CD, like a copying device, like
Okay.
whenever copying CDs was a
Oh
thing, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
would
burning
yeah,
CDs.
burning CDs, like, but actually with like just pure hardware just for that, not on a computer or anything. This is
Right.
even before, like, I think it was just CD-ROM drives mostly, or maybe CD
Yeah.
rewritables were just real expensive or out of the realm. So it was right in that time, but I was making mixtapes for everyone on the on my blog.
Man,
It was, you know what I mean?
yeah, funny story about that. I took my car to get washed on Friday, so 2 days ago, and I didn't even know, but I had this old CD case that I found under my seat, and I started flipping through some of the CDs, and the majority of the CDs are burnt CDs. But I was looking at some of the music that I used to listen to, and the mixtapes. And I was like, man, like it really took me back
Oh.
to that time. Yeah,
Yeah,
mixtapes
mixtapes.
was heavy in my
I
life.
mean, you used to, like, that used to be how you got all, like, the thing with CDs back then. A lot, and a lot of people say this about albums in general. Is like there's only like
They're
one or two
commercial.
songs on the
Yeah,
album that you even like, right? I mean,
right.
yeah, there's a couple songs. So you get now with the mixtapes, I was able to rip the songs I like off like 10 albums to make one CD that had like 12, 15 songs that I really liked.
Yeah.
Boom, then you wouldn't have to take it out. But so it's just all things like that, including old electronics, disassembling them and trying to reassemble them just for fun. I mean, I don't know
Okay.
how many people do that for fun, but
Right.
I
Tech.
don't know. I did that. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. I had my MacBook Pro disassembled probably in about 150 pieces, screws and different pieces everywhere, and I resoldered on the graphics, the card or whatever that had came off just to try to repair it. But I don't know. It's just a fascination with how stuff works, and with the internet these days and YouTube, it's so easy to look for, try to find guides. A lot of times,
Oh
it's
yeah.
a lot of digging. You have to be patient because unless you know how to dig through forums and all this other garbage, it's hard to find it. And in a lot of ways, I think that's kind of one of the things that I want to help with this Family Tech Guys project, business, whatever you want to call it, is surface this stuff up and make that stuff easier to find, easier to access. You know what I mean? Like some of
Yeah,
these harder
definitely.
things that I do enjoy digging and figuring out and making that easier for people. Because once you figure it out and you do it, like, oh, it's not too bad, you know?
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
as bad as I thought it was. But anyways, that was a long-winded answer, I know, but that's kind of the transition on how I got into tech and some of the things I'm interested.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, so since I know that you are a gearhead, um this is something that a question that we may have touched on it before, just in you and I talking, but when tech guy Nate, when Nathan is buying technology or you're analyzing tech to buy, and there are several choices. Let's say that it may be like a wearable or a smartwatch. It may be a smartphone. It could be a computer. What mostly drives you to purchase what you purchase, or to you, what is most important? Is it software or is it hardware?
Hmm, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
At first, I would say my younger years, I would almost always say hardware. That was
Okay.
the thing I always wanted to look at. It was always which one's the better, faster, stronger, whatever you want to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think in a lot of ways the video games also was that. It was every time the new console came out, you wanted the one that pushed more graphics, more polygons, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, now as a gamer and looking at the current consoles, they're all pretty powerful, right?
Right. Right.
And what sets them all apart now is the actual games on the consoles, the software. And I'd say as I've gotten older, I've definitely gained a lot more respect for the software side of things. And I think in a lot of ways, that's almost what's more important to me nowadays. You know what I mean? So the hardware provides like the base and the framework, but the software is what really gets it running and you're able to use it how you want to use it, so to speak. You know what I mean? So whether it's if you look at iPhone hardware and a Galaxy hardware, or any Android phone that's relatively same specs. I mean they're going to be able to perform hardware wise about the same. The difference between those two phones at this point is almost all software and like the companies behind them and how like Apple, they have a huge focus on privacy. Even in WWDC, they actually
Right.
took a few minutes at the end to talk specifically about privacy, how they're handling in that, and that's all really done. It's with in conjunction with hardware, but it's the software and the philosophies that guide them in that department that really push that forward. So it's kind of been a pendulum, but I definitely say it started with I was definitely really concerned with hardware, but
Mm-hmm.
now I'd say software is probably the main thing.
Now, see, I thought that you were going to lead and say, "Oh, 100% hardware," and here's why. Because when I look at things like gaming consoles and I look at smartphones and other things, the hardware is pretty much the limit, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if if I buy the most advanced hardware, like I can always just upgrade the software very easily, but there is no upgrading the hardware. So if you buy pretty much the best hardware that's out, or buy a great piece of hardware that allows you to do more than what you can do, let's say right now at this point in time, the software will always be there. And I'm thinking about, for example, right now I have an iPhone 6. The iPhone 6s is out as we await the announcement and the release of the iPhone 7. So I have the same software that's on the latest phone, which is the iPhone 6s. But I don't have all of the features because the hardware limits me from, let's say, having Hey Siri without my phone being plugged up to a power
Yeah.
source. Whereas if so, you can pretty much look at the software and ignore the hardware and say, "Hey, I'm just gonna get the best software," but then the hardware may limit it from being upgraded. So I don't know. See, I
It,
just
it
learned something new about you then.
yeah, it goes both ways, and I definitely
Yeah.
still consider the software. It's definitely part. But one example I would use would be like Windows Phone,
Yeah.
right? Their hardware is probably also just as good as an iPhone's. Their issue there is they don't have the apps, aka the software,
Yeah.
that actually helps back it up. And therefore, I just wouldn't really probably go in that ecosystem right now. You know what I mean? Because they don't really have the software to back it. But yeah, I totally agree on and that's part of the reason why, in some ways, something like the iPhone
Hmm.
is one of those pieces of technology, smartphone. It's so integrated in our use. Me and my wife have kind of decided that we might just try to keep up with the iPhone upgrades. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
trade it in. Usually get pretty good money back for them, and just go ahead and get the new one. Just like you said, there usually is a few features that you don't get even with the software updates. 3D touch or something like that. That comes along. I'm sure in the future there's going to be like a second camera lens to get like 3D photography, or you know what I mean. That stuff's going to start coming in, more virtual
Right.
reality stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, even things like this NAS drive that I recently bought that I'm still in the process of setting up in the house.
Hmm.
I looked at it, and that's the difference. I mean, there's like 10 Synology NAS drives that are 4-bay NAS drives, but I'm trying to think of longevity and features and those kind of things as well. So it is both. I do look at both. But when I was younger, I would almost like only make my decisions on
Right.
hardware. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
skip the software, man. I just assumed the developers would come and make something cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which is why I
But
called you a gearhead because I'm like I know that Nathan geeks out about his gear,
oh
and
yeah.
you mentioned the NAS drive, which perfectly helps me to segue into my next question. So I want to do something fun. I want you to start at your front door and walk myself and the audience through each room of your house and letting us know what technology you have in that room and the reason why you have it.
Good question. Good question.
Yeah.
Let's see. So you probably walk in. You're gonna come into the probably like the living room kitchen area.
Okay.
So in the living room kitchen area, I have a Wi-Fi range extender.
And it is used for what?
So basically, it extends the Wi-Fi. So I have my Wi-Fi router in like one of the bedrooms,
Okay.
but out in the living room, it kind of gets a weak signal. So a range extender just picks up that signal and rebroadcast it basically, the
Ah,
way
and
I have it set
so
up.
you don't have to have the range extender actually plugged into the Wi-Fi router. You can have it in
No.
separate rooms.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just plugged
Okay.
into the wall. It actually connects to the Wi-Fi. So I put it in a position where it can connect at a fairly strong signal,
Yeah.
and then I have it rebroadcasting a different signal. So I know that I'm connecting to the extender versus whatever. So the example is, let's say Linksys. Let's say the name of my network is Nathan's Linksys.
Yes.
Well, the range extender, I'd say Nathan Linksys extender, right? And then when I'm out there and I look at my phone or my tablet, if I'm connected to the Nathan Linksys extender, then I know I'm connected to that versus because sometimes when you're on I've noticed with range extenders, when you move around your house, it doesn't like easily switch between them like you think it would. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or at least it's not
Yeah.
as fast. So sometimes I'd like to manually check. But so you'd see the range extender. So and that's actually what helps power what's in the living room, which you'd see a TV like you see in most houses right now, and below the TV I actually have I believe it's a Roku 3 and a second generation Apple TV in the
Mm.
living room.
Okay.
So it's actually two devices, and those connect to the range extender as well. So that helps give them a better signal.
So someone, let's say with a two-story house, would you recommend, let's say the first floor, put the Wi-Fi router, or have the I'm sorry, the modem? Would you have it on the first or the second floor, and then the extender on the opposite?
It probably just depends where the cable company or DSL
All
company
right.
they're
Yeah.
gonna install the modem somewhere, and you might have some control where they install it, but sometimes you don't have as much control where they might install it. So it just kind of depends where that's at. And yeah, just remember that the signal, it comes out from it in a almost like a spherical fashion, but the further away from you are, and then the more walls, the more metal things, those kind of the things will interrupt the signal. The weaker it gets. So, um, ideally you'd have like a really strong like 802.11 AC router in the dead center of your house somehow,
Yeah.
but it's
Right, but
just
it
not
doesn't
that
always work that
feasible.
way.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. So you just try to get it as best you can, both the range extender somewhere kind of uh, in the middle, so when it broadcasts, it hits like the extents of your house, kind of thing.
All right. So, living room right now, so far, you've mentioned the range extender and you've also mentioned the Roku and second gen Apple TV.
Yep. And of course, there's the I have a 5-year-old, so she has probably an iPad, her iPad 2,
Right.
laying around somewhere out there, which is also connected to that same range extender.
Yes.
And the last thing is in the kitchen by the dining table, I have one of my old PCs hooked up there that
Okay.
that I was setting up to use as a there's a app called Play On that allows you to record. Like you can actually just record stuff off Netflix or different services or
Oh,
TVs.
wow. Yeah.
Um, and so I was planning on getting that set up at some point. That's just like a project that's been dead. But it's just my old Windows PC that I bought in like '05. But I've upgraded a few of the components in there, so it's not completely dated. It's still running Windows 10 and everything. So
Okay.
that
Quick question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that pretty much wraps up what's out there. But before we move on, I'll let you ask that question.
Yeah. Roku versus Apple TV. Why do you have two separate? Compare those for us. Which one do you enjoy the
Gotcha.
most? What are the pros? What are the cons for Roku versus Apple TV?
So I've had those two. That was the Apple TV second gen, and if you
Yeah.
remember, they didn't update the Apple TV for years, and
Right.
then
Yeah.
the third generation was even the newer version. This one is only the 720p second gen, so that thing's old. I had it for a really long time. The Apple, I used it mostly for AirPlay and stuff like that at the time, sharing my screen and stuff on the TV easily. That's honestly what I used that for. And then for all my streaming and stuff, when we lived on the Central Coast, I was using the Roku because the Roku it had a much better channel app store, so many more options and different services, and you can use Amazon Prime, just like all the options you could think of were all on Roku. And it was a 1080p device at the time, where Apple, when I got it, only had a 720p device. I had a 1080p TV, so
Nice. Okay.
we pretty much use the Roku exclusively. I love the Roku, um, but we recently purchased a fourth gen Apple TV, the newer ones.
Hmm.
Now they have an app store, a
Yeah, it's very
growing app
robust.
store,
Yeah.
and a lot more updated. And that's actually in the office slash bedroom, which and so when we did that, we just went ahead and moved the other Apple TV out with you know what I mean. So that's just out
Yeah.
there as an option in case we want to AirPlay at this point. But to be honest, we don't use that Apple TV too much.
Okay. Is it just since you have it in the living room along with the Roku, and you said that you mostly use it for AirPlay? Is it showing pictures from your phone, or if
Usually, it's like if a family member's over and I want to show them a video, instead of like showing my phone and holding it to their face, I could just
right?
throw it on the TV. I mean, that's literally all it is, and it's very far, few and far between when I'm using um, that Apple TV. Like honestly, we don't use it that much because there's no app store on that one. So it was
Yeah.
whatever apps Apple decided to put, like they thought we wanted, then they would put some apps on there. But I love the model now with the fourth gen, which now I would say I'm actually using this fourth gen one in here more than the Roku. So
Okay.
it's kind of ebb and flowed a little bit.
Yeah, I'll say something. I'll speak to the AirPlay. Yes, definitely. When you have company, videos and pictures that you want to show, if there's an app that's on your phone that you want to like demonstrate or show them some really cool feature on an app that is on your phone but not on Apple TV. But one of the things that I use to AirPlay the most is music because
Mm.
like the music that was on my hard drive. I mean, I could have turned on home sharing, but for Apple Music isn't on the past generation iPhone, so I can still. I mean, the past generation Apple TV. So if right now in my home, I have two. I think what is Gen threes because Apple TV is on Gen 4, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. So the Gen 4 Apple TV has Apple Music on it. So I can just right
Yeah,
there
it's just
from
right
Apple
there.
Music. Yeah, exactly. Now on the other ones, if I want to listen to music, let's say I'm cleaning up or I don't know, maybe just doing something else and want to play music, then I'll AirPlay the music over.
Yeah,
It
and
just
so
AirPlay the audio.
and that actually reminds me of the one other piece of technology I have. Pretty much in every single one of the rooms I've set at this point, two in the kitchen, one in the living room, and one in my daughter's room, is a Sonos speaker. And
Nice.
so that's where we don't really airplay music to the Apple TV because I don't know if you've used the Sonos. Basically, for those that don't know, it's kind of like the Sonos creates its own little,
Network.
almost like a Wi-Fi. It's called a mesh network.
Yeah.
They kind of connect to each other, but you set up the all your music in the Sonos app, so you can set up Amazon. Your if you have Amazon Prime, you can set up Apple Music, Google Play Music, pretty much any service. You can set that up in the Sonos app, and then from there you can create all these cool playlists across all these services. So like you can literally get a song from Google Play, a song from Apple Music if you have those subscriptions. Make one nice playlist, and then you could play the songs on any speaker in any combination. So you can have my wife can be playing her music in the kitchen while she's cleaning up or cooking dinner or whatever she was doing in there, and then my daughter can listen to her kids' music in her room, or we could have the same music playing on all the speakers at the same time, like if you had like a little party or get together, which we've done before when we've had like game nights, invite like
Right.
some of my parents over, and we just have some music in the background. So I'm just like classic pop music or whatever it is, just on
Yeah.
in the background as ambience kind of thing.
Nice. Can you
So
play Apple's podcasting app through it?
yes, so that's the nice thing. That's one of the reasons I actually use the native podcast app, is because the Sonos app can pull the podcast from that natively real easily. Now, Google Play add podcasts to their store, so you might
Yeah.
be able to pull them from there as well now. So, but that's why I really mostly use the native podcast app on the store. So yeah, those Sonos speakers, I really love them. I mean, for any music lover at all, I mean, I found when we first got those, especially, we were just always having music going on. It's like we wanted it to follow us throughout the house, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I definitely see that as something some next project that I dive into for the family because we're always listening to music, always listening to podcasts. Even when I put my girls to sleep, I put on like Bon Iver
Mm-hmm.
or it's one of their favorite Disney soundtracks and let them go to sleep. So yes, music is definitely a big part. A question that I want to ask you about your wife. You mentioned her earlier. What are some of the ways that you and your wife use the technology that you all have to either increase your communication, stay on the same page, or just to make life much more convenient and save time?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. Well, I would say for sure, especially with the in conjunction with the Apple Watch, and I think we mentioned this at some point before, but the calendar app.
Hmm.
Once we really got that thing set up how we wanted and used, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
um, and the way we set it up is basically we have a shared family calendar, a shared Nathan calendar. You know what I mean? A shared calendar for each of the individuals, right?
Right.
So basically, if there's something that only I'm doing, I put it on the Nathan calendar. If there's something only my daughter's doing, it's on that calendar. If there's something we're doing as a family, like you went to a family reunion yesterday, we
Hmm.
put it on the family calendar.
Okay.
And actually, I added one more calendar. I call it the hidden calendar, um, just for things that it's an option that we can do, but we don't think we're going to. But
Okay.
so I put it on the hidden calendar, and then I actually turn it off. But sometimes it's because it's only came up. It's came up a few times because we have. I don't. In case the listeners don't know, me and my wife we do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and Taekwondo, and as you can imagine, some of those classes conflict with each other. And throughout a normal week, we have our set schedule on like, okay, tonight we're doing Jiu Jitsu, tonight we're doing Taekwondo. But there's some nights where you're maybe like, I don't want to do jiu-jitsu tonight. What time's taekwondo? Well, you don't want to have them necessarily both on the calendar because
Right.
then it like they read weird, and especially on the Apple Watch, it almost shows like there's a conflict. So
Yeah.
I make a hidden calendar, so like anytime I want, I can look to see. Oh well, what time was that class? And easily look at it without having to go find a schedule somewhere online. So
Yeah, I
that's
actually like that because it's like if what you originally had planned, if those plans fall through, you already have a backup that's ready to go.
yeah,
um, Pretty
especially for the
much.
Monday through Friday evening. So yeah, that's kind of where the genesis of the hidden. It's working out so far. I just kind of made it up, but just letting you know how I set it up. So that's kind of the calendars, and once it's set it up that way, it's so easy now. The main way I consume or look at it is through the Apple Watch, and my wife's the same way. Where basically the Apple Watch always shows your next coming event. You can even scroll ahead real easily. Oh, okay, and then we got that next kind of thing. So I love using the Apple Watch. That's a huge way that we connect, and especially I took my daughter's calendar, and we went ahead and shared that with my parents because sometimes my parents are asking, what times does she go to gymnastics or what time does she go to taekwondo? Maybe they want to watch, maybe they
Uh-huh.
whatever. Well, now since they also have iOS devices, boom! They anytime I add something to my daughter's calendar, they also get it. So grandma and grandpa have her entire schedule, and I don't have to sit there and text them every day. Oh, by the way, today she has gymnastics from 12 to 1 and swimming from 3 to 3:30 or something like that. It's just on her phone.
Yeah, that is awesome. So you mentioned yesterday I went to a family reunion. Well, this is Reagan's first year. My oldest daughter taking uh, doing competitive cheerleading. Now she's always been in gymnastics and tumbling and ballet, but now she's doing competitive cheer. And we told some family members yesterday, and they said that they would love to come out to some of her competitions.
hmm
And I remember leaving, my wife and I was talking about it, and we were telling each other that, man, we're gonna have to make a list of family members that want to attend Reagan's events and send them out a text message on the
Yeah.
times and dates. And I was telling her, like, man, that just seems like it'll just be too much. There must be a better way. But what you're saying is possibly what I could do is create a calendar with nothing. And we have three girls, by the way. For all of you that are listening for you for the first time, I have three girls. Nathan has one, but we can create. My wife and I can create a family calendar with all of our girls' events on it, um,
hmm
and get a shareable link and send it to the family members that are interested in coming and say, here's a link to our calendar that have all of the girls' events on it. Look at it and just let us know which ones you want to come to. Is that
Yeah.
something of what you do
Yeah.
with
Exactly.
the
You
grandparents?
basically
Okay.
you can just share the entire calendar, and then anytime, because on the iOS calendar app there's that inbox, and it shows when
Right.
someone added something. So every time I add something, my mom sees, which is my daughter's grandma, she sees like, oh, something's in the inbox. Oh, looks like there's
Mm.
something coming up, and she just hits okay. It's added to her calendar, and then once it's on her calendar, she can actually set up a reminder or all that stuff that you can do within calendars separate for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, so I was clearing off a little message there on Skype, but so that's actually really a big way that we keep things organized. I would say for sure. In terms of communication, right now I'd say like 99% of the communication between me and my wife is probably just iMessage.
Yeah.
It's I think what Apple says that's like the number one used app on the iPhone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
And that's pretty much what we used. We I think we rarely call each other.
Yeah.
um, so we're getting used to using iMessage. I say quite a bit. That's like our main form of communication. I have ideas of trying some of these other messaging apps a little bit more, and possibly using Slack in some capacity, but I just
Hmm.
haven't gotten around to trying to send that up with the busy schedule.
Yeah, and the only thing with that, trying to get everyone on the same page to use the same app,
hmm
it's that's a job within itself. But
Yeah,
then
yeah.
again, that's the job of a family tech
Well,
guy,
I was gonna
right?
say like if that's the I kind of if I made the executive decision, I just like, okay, everyone, we are using the Slack Slack app.
Right.
I have removed your iMessage app. It's kind of like the IT department at work or something,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
Uh,
Yeah. All right. So next question I want to ask you is: are there any tech rules, that you and your wife have implemented into your family, like no phones at the dinner table, or um, at 9 o'clock at night, everyone put their phones all on the coffee table and just leave them there until morning time and don't touch them. What are some rules that y'all have implemented?
Trying to think. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Yeah. Or if you have like a hard and fast agreement, no texting and driving. So if you know that your wife is driving, you won't send her a text message. Just any type of tech rules that the two of you have.
That is one
Yeah.
I have for myself personally for sure.
Yeah.
Is I don't take my phone. I try not to take my phone out of my pocket at all when I'm driving, if possible.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one. You know what I mean? And I would definitely encourage anyone. I mean, the texting and driving thing, it's almost worse than talking on the phone and driving. You know, even pre Bluetooth, because I feel like texting takes your eyes off the road for so much longer. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's right.
But now that I have a car with Bluetooth in it, I will like accept the call through my dash or whatever,
Hmm.
which I've even done with you a few times. Which that's actually pretty convenient because that one you can pretty much keep your eyes on the road while driving. So um, that's actually kind of nice. But I'm trying to think of other rules, like especially with my daughter, we don't have any specific times. I think part of it too is like I mentioned before, we're in jujitsu and taekwondo, and my daughter, in addition to that, is also in gymnastics, swimming, and dance.
So there's
Um,
not that much leisure time to where she
so
can just
yeah,
yeah.
we're gone doing stuff, and so on the weekends, I really don't mind if she plays on the iPad for a few hours. Like I just now that I'm in terms of content, we're not letting her look at rated R. You know what I mean? It's all
Yeah.
kid type content and stuff like that. I guess to me, on some level, that's pretty obvious. But no, I don't. I don't really quite limit it. In fact, I don't know. I want her to explore all those facets of life and stuff because that's all part of it now. That's we live in a digital world, as we were said in the intro video that we're kind of creating right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I limit her use of some of that stuff, then I just look at how fast she picks this stuff up and can use it. Like one of the cool things I see that she uses with the iPad is I put contacts in her iPad. She has her own iCloud account because you can set it up through family sharing. So
Hmm.
she actually has her own account, and I set up her iMessage with grandma, grandpa, me, my wife, and then my sister, my wife's sister, so her two aunts.
Hmm.
And she goes in now and messages them completely. I don't even know it half the time. My mom will
Yeah.
tell me like, "Oh, do you know she messaged me and told me this?" I'm like, I didn't know she did that." But
Yeah.
not only does she know how to like send them, it used to just be emojis, but
Hmm.
now I've taught her how to send audio messages,
Yeah.
right? So she
Yeah.
can hold the button, send audio messages, and I showed her how to send video messages through iMessage. So she can almost completely, the 5 or 6 core adults in the family,
Hmm.
she can independently just communicate with them anytime that she feels like it. And I think that's a pretty cool thing, and I think empowers her in some ways,
Oh yeah, definitely. Besides the iPad, what other devices does she have access to?
She has, I'd say, 3 main electronics. She has our old digital camera, which is a little
Okay.
Sony point and shoot. She has
Yeah.
the iPad 2, and then she has a Nintendo DS. Of course, I'm a gamer, man. She has to
Right.
have another. It was kind of like a hand-me-down thing, but um, it was Amber's old DS that she hadn't got a chance to play in a long time. But we decided to go ahead and give that to her so she can play some, Mario Kart. You gotta play Mario Kart
Right.
and Super
Exactly.
Mario World.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing about the DS. I mean, I love a lot of the games that are on iOS still,
Hmm.
but there's like there's something about Nintendo's games, Mario,
Yeah.
Zelda. I mean, to me, those are like the
They're
ingrained
classic. Yeah.
classics, and those just aren't available. That's a Nintendo thing. So
Yeah.
gotta get her hooked on that.
Okay. I remember at one time you mentioned getting her an iPod Touch. Is that
Mhm.
something that you got for her, or you didn't get it for her yet?
Not yet,
Okay. Okay.
but I think I'm still thinking about it. She has it's a old iPhone 3GS that we actually
Okay.
just have,
Yeah.
and that's kind of but it's so old. Like
Yeah.
that thing hasn't had
Doesn't
an
do anything.
iOS
Really.
update. I think it's iOS 6 might have been the last update on that thing.
Yeah.
At least the iPad 2 is still current. Like it's still iOS 9 right now. Now I don't think it's going to be iOS 10. So we are considering some things now because just for security reasons. Plus, it's
Mm.
just slow and doesn't have some of the features. But so we're either looking at possibly an iPod Touch or maybe a new iPad Mini
All
coming
right.
up. Maybe that can solve both problems in one. But definitely looking at something maybe as a Christmas present this year or something for her. She keeps asking for a new. She calls well, it is a phone. The 3GS her phone, even though it's not activated. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically an iPod Touch, but she's like, Dad, Dad, I need a new phone. Where's my
All right.
phone? I'm like, it's such a pain because those have the old charger. It's not the
Oh
new
yeah, yeah,
Lightning
the
charger,
30
and
pin.
yeah, and you can put that one in upside down. You have to put it
Mm-hmm.
in the right way, and I've gotten so used to the Lightning where you can just plug it in, doesn't matter which direction.
Yeah.
So little things like that, like I think she would be able to plug it in and charge it herself easier. Where
Okay.
right now I'm still having to charge her iPad too, but no, we haven't done that. And I know you were considering getting your daughters a phone,
Yeah, yeah.
at some point. And
That's
so,
that's my next question I was going to ask you,
yeah,
actually. So yes, I am. My wife and I said that. So our oldest is going into first grade, and we are definitely looking at getting her a cell phone in August. Well, actually, in September, we decided when we upgrade our phones to the new iPhone 7, both of us are going to have our phones. We're not turning our phones in for credit. We're just going to keep them uh, just because when we got them 2 years ago, we did a 2 year contract, and so we're not doing the monthly thing now. Going forward, we may do the monthly so we can upgrade every year. But these phones are ours, and so my wife have the 6 Plus, I have the 6, and we're thinking about just more than likely giving Reagan my phone because I mean she's going to be 6 years old in August. Her hands are too small for a 6 Plus, so I'll just give her my 6.
hmm
Um, and that'll be her phone to use, number one, so I can see where she is at all time. And if she needs to call us, if she needs to message someone, if there was in last school year, there was 3 times that it was a break in communication between my mother, myself, and my wife, and she was left at school, and we had absolutely no idea. She got out of school at like 3:15, and here it is like 4 o'clock, 4:15, and her school is calling saying nobody picked her up. And in cases like that, I want her to be able to communicate with us like as soon as she think that she's been forgotten, to
yeah,
just
yeah,
take out her phone, send us a text message and things of that nature. So just when there's 3 children involved, and then there's 3 adults that get that shuffle that drive the children around. I mean, sometimes there's going to be breakdowns in communication, but I at least for right now want Ray to have a phone. My question to you is now I know your family dynamic is somewhat different. You and your wife only have one daughter, and she's still pretty young, four,
yeah.
five years old.
She's going into kindergarten this
You're right,
year.
right.
So
So there may not be a need for her a phone yet, but I'm sure you and your wife have broached the subject. When do you plan on getting her a phone?
yeah, it's it's tough, man. There's that line of, is she responsible enough to not break it or not
True.
lose it
Yeah.
or take care
Yeah.
of it? So there's that aspect of it, which, and we've talked about it. That's maybe where definitely an avenue where I'd consider insurance over maybe just Apple Care, because Apple
Yeah.
Care is just a warranty for breaking. But um, I don't have any real issues other than not wanting to pay the phone bill.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
That is something
and
major.
but once I get past that barrier, there's really no reason other than that. I'd probably put a big old fat Otter case. Is it OtterBox? Yeah,
Yeah. OtterBox. Yeah.
or one of those life-proof cases or something on it as well.
Right. Yeah. Because life-proof is waterproof also.
Yeah, yeah, maybe one of the
OtterBox
life-proof
is.
because spilling the lunch juice on it or something.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but just I know, just it's not even just her responsibility. I'm also considering like, well, what are other classmates gonna do when they see she has a phone? Are they gonna try to take it? Are they gonna,
Right. Yeah. Is it
or
gonna make
maybe
her a
they try to
target?
grab it out of her hand to play with it, but then they drop it. There's just so many infinite things, and I also don't know exactly what the rules. I mean, I remember in high school. When I was in high school, I think pagers were like the
Yeah.
popular thing, right? Cell phones, I don't even there. It was like car phones were out, and not really cell phones hardly at that point. But people were having to take people's pagers away, and I wonder. Obviously, high school's a little different than first grade, but I wonder how teachers feel with having phones in class from the kids, like making sure it's silent, or something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to ask the teachers their thoughts on it. But from the communication standpoint, I love it. And the cool thing about iMessage is my daughter doesn't have to type out a whole long message to communicate. She just hits the audio thing and talks, just like she would any
Exactly.
other time. Like
Yeah.
she can just say like, "Dad, where are you?" And you can respond like, "Oh man, I, I missed you. I'm on my way right now. Okay." You know
Yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
right.
Like
Yeah.
that's the magic of it. It's not just straight text messaging. So
Yeah,
even a
or she
5-year-old
can
can
even
do it.
FaceTime you.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
um
So speaking of
yeah.
school, because you did mention like teachers in school and such, as far as the school that you pick for her when she goes into first grade, or even now that she's going into kindergarten, how much of a factor did technology play into that, into your decision on what school she's going to attend?
Well, it played in a little less than I wished it would actually, because the options here aren't as as Dallas is a much bigger city. You
Yeah.
got more options. Because we were even considering keeping her in Montessori school if
Uh huh.
possible, which it's a private school, but it's a little bit different setup than public schools. A more
Right.
self guided learning.
Yeah.
Um, and they're not particularly electronic based, at least not at this point. But they do, there are definitely a lot of Montessori apps and stuff I found on the iPad for. But that's kind of what we want. But they don't even have those kind of schools here in Bakersfield. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So
Yeah.
here, the options are just kind of limited from what we found. So I don't know. We've been looking at a couple, even like charter schools, which some of those have they're public schools basically, but they can do the curriculum a little bit different than a public school. They something about they can organize how the curriculum is taught. Or I don't know. This is one of the things where my wife knows a little bit more about it
Right.
than I do.
Yeah.
But I have to ask her some of those questions, like, well, what kind of technology do they use, and uh, also just little simple things like how do the teachers just keep in regular contact with the parents these days? I mean, it seems so easy. Like we talked about Slack briefly earlier,
Oh
but
yeah.
like if a school set up a Slack account for each classroom, and then the parents joined the class whenever the new school year started, so a classroom was like all the a channel could be the teacher with all the parents of the kids,
Yeah,
and
and
then
then
like
the
anytime
parents could communicate, the
yeah,
teachers could communicate with
the teacher could
parents.
just send out a quick message, boom, to all the parents, in just a single class. The stuff's there to make that super easy, but I do wonder if schools are adopting different technologies like that to, let the parents know, hey, homework went out this week or
Right.
whatever it is, or you know what I mean. um, so that kind of stuff, I guess I would just was expecting to learn as she started school.
Yeah.
I beans, a lot of it is, if it is public school, I just have my doubts that it's going to have anything crazy,
Yeah. Yeah.
cool or beneficial. It's probably just going to be the same old, same old. But
Right.
I know with you were looking into a school where they used iPads a lot and whatnot, or something like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so we've been looking at several schools, and I think we settled in on this school. The cool thing about this school is that the kids only go to school for about 5 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
It is like a college prep school, and so the children go to school from like 8 to, I want to say, like 1:50. So the children get out at 1:50 every day, Monday through Friday, and it's meant to be somewhat, I want to say, 70% in instruction time at school. It is meant to be like half homeschool, half instructional school, and it's for families that pretty much want a homeschool or a private school feel, because it's a charter school, but not in a position for whatever reason, whether if you want to or whether both parents are working, not to that you can't
Okay, yeah.
homeschool. Yeah, and so
I think
the
that's kind of what my wife was saying, was it was like independent studies technically, or something along those lines.
right,
Because
yes, yes,
I think we were going to put her in. It's like the same thing. It was like a little bit shorter school. But go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So now, so as far as some of the technology at this school, The older kids, I want to say the older kids, I want to sixth grade and up, they all get assigned an iPad. I'm not 100% sure about that because we've only been to one meeting that was
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of like a open house or something of that nature, and we were just really focused on first grade and elementary school because our two youngest children within the next 3 to 4 years they're going to be in school also. But just as far as parent teacher communication, that's all done pretty much via technology and pretty much via email. And so you and I, Nate, have had several conversations about sort of our frustration of there being lack of adoption of technology in schools. The great thing about this school that we found for our oldest is since there's a large element of homeschooling or parent, it is called parent instruction, a large element of that. I pretty much get to determine what I want Reagan to do once she's out of school because they don't give that much homework. And it's not like the teachers are saying, hey, parents, during your parent instruction, this is what you have to cover. We're left to cover, the parents are left to cover whatever they want. So if I want to take my daughter to the Microsoft store, because there's two Microsoft stores in the DFW area. One is in Dallas at North Park, the other is in Frisco for those of you that live in the DFW area. Um, I can take my daughter to Microsoft and they teach classes to children about coding and things of that nature. I can take her to the Apple store and let them teach her about technology, or I can teach her myself. And so that's pretty much how I combated my frustrations with finding schools that have like a major technology adoption. That's pretty much not like a STEAM school or a STEM school, but
yeah. That's kind of why I liked it, because I remember minimal homework was an issue I was also looking for.
mhm,
Just I don't know. I think some of the kids I have some nephews that I want to say second grade, and they
mhm.
have hours of homework each week. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm just like, second, man, that's crazy. Like, and
right,
I feel the same way where, okay, I want her to have academic skills and knowledge and good in math and science and reading and writing, those kind of things, obviously, right? That's part
yeah,
of a good, well rounded education. But along with that, I feel like you need to do things like learn about health and take care of your body, learn about art and music and just different aspects of life. And maybe, like you said, maybe learn a little bit about technology or
yeah,
just different facets of life that you're never going to get in school, especially a public school or even a lot of private schools. You're not going to get that well-roundedness anymore. But
right,
I feel like it is on us, at least I feel like it's on me as a parent to try to offer that to my daughter.
yeah,
So that's kind of what I like to do, and I think that's kind of another reason. It sounds like we're, last time I was speaking to my wife that we're probably looking at like I said, the charter school for that reason. It's more
yeah,
independent studies, and as parents, we can fill in the gaps a little bit.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
All right, my wife and I
And
was
yeah,
talking, and we were just throwing things out like about like what are we going to do once she's actually out of school and is 150 like during the week. And I was like, what would be cool? What if we had like one outside day? There's like tons of farms around here where we live. Believe it or not, you can live in a major city like Dallas, but on the outskirts there still be farms and
yeah,
houses and
yeah.
things. And Reagan, she was in horseback riding lessons, and she's going to start that back up in a few weeks. But I was like, man, what if like one day a month or maybe one day every other week, pretty much Reagan had like livestock training where she actually went on a farm and interacted with real animals. And she was learning, I don't know, something about not geography, but something about animals, and whether it's science or wherever. And she actually interacted with a few, and or we took her to a
Yeah.
zoo and let her
Well,
do real
see,
research and talk to the zookeepers
yeah,
about,
yeah.
hey, what is it like? What is this animal's demeanor? What climate does this animal live in? And actually get real world hands-on knowledge. Go ahead.
I feel like that's where your kid's gonna develop a passion for anything, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
like there's no kids that go like, oh, I went to school today and I just developed a passion for algebra. right?
Yeah.
No, no one does that. You develop passions for different aspects, and maybe
Yeah.
you develop a passion for a job that requires algebra, then you go learn it. But but like that, I don't know. Maybe that's just my cynical look at school sometimes, because I don't know. I did really well in school, especially elementary, all the way in through high school. I
Hmm.
was always one of those kids that could, I got pretty good grades, but it was boring. Like, I was
Yeah.
like any other kid, where just sometimes just those academics, social studies, and all that stuff. I'm not saying you don't need it, but I don't know, just it doesn't capture passion. But if you put them in all these other activities, like you said, horseback riding, all these little things, zoo, and then all of a sudden they had to develop a love and passion for animals, and maybe that leads to them either taking care of animals, but they could be a vet, they could be a dog trainer. I mean, you never know what that ends up
Exactly. Yeah.
manifesting into, but it's those experience they have that will manifest later into maybe some like possible career option. But so you need the academics to have skills to build on, but you need to expose them to stuff so they can develop passions for things too. So that's where, like I said, it really is nice for the parents to fill in gaps, and we don't get a chance to fill in the gaps if they have 5 hours of homework a night. Is how I look at it.
Right.
So part of me is like, I just wanted to make sure she didn't have an overwhelming amount of homework.
Yeah. So there's one more question that I want to ask you before we get into our rapid fire. But before that, I'm going to make a comment. Um, so my daughter is turning 6. Yours is 4 or 5, one of them. But I
5.
was just, yeah, 5. Okay. So I was just thinking about, when our children graduate from high school, it's going to be like 2029 or 2030. And see your
Wow,
laugh.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
exactly. And so I was thinking about that and I was like, man, it is so hard to predict how the world is going to be then, because obviously as parents, we want to condition and we want to prepare our children for the world that they are going to live in when they become an adults, because the world in 2030 isn't going to be what it is now in 2016, right? And so it's so hard to
Yeah, yeah,
predict where the world is going to be. And we're having this whole school conversation and talking about technology. We spent the bulk of our conversation, it seems like, talking about our children, but it's because as parents, our number one job is to prepare them to become adults. And the technology we place in their hands, the school that we send them to, all of that, the rules or the regulations, what we allow them to explore, all of that is going to play a factor into who they are when they walk across the stage and become an adult in 2030. And yeah, I mean, our job is to prepare them for that. So I'm pretty sure, Nate, that like we're
yeah.
going to talk about
I've
that a
always
lot.
been what was that saying where you give you teach your kids, or you give your kids a toolbox for
Yes.
success, and not
Yeah.
teach them how to be successful in one thing. So it's all about
Exactly.
teaching them how to adapt, how to, all that kind of stuff. But,
Yeah.
and I was going to ask you too, I made it into the living room and kitchen. I didn't know if you ever wanted me to make it back into the main room where most of my technology is, or
Oh
what's going
yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Come on, let's go there right now.
uh, well, I'll just say basically the bulk of the technology is going to be in what I would consider the half office, half bedroom right now.
Yeah.
But we'll just call it the office for short. But that's where I got the video game consoles. I told you I'm still a gamer, man. I still got the
Right.
Xbox One, the PS4.
Okay,
Um,
so hold on. There. E3. What is the biggest news in like 90 seconds? Give me a recap on E3 and the biggest news out of it.
the two big pieces is there's a new Xbox. No, we'll just say an updated Xbox One and PS4 on the horizon, specifically to beef up the power and support VR on those systems. Is what I'm thinking. The Xbox also is going to support like 4K resolution, not just 1080p anymore. But so that's the big one, and of course VR headsets. Some of them are out, like the HTC Vive. Some of them are still on their way out, and those are still kind of got a lot of buzz around them as well. But those are the two biggest ones. Of course, like one of the big games coming out on the new Nintendo console, Zelda. So Zelda also had a pretty big splash. You gotta play your Zelda. That for a gamer, Zelda hits a core for especially gamers my age. Did you ever play Zelda? I don't
No,
even know. You
no.
were big into like Madden and stuff,
Right.
right? Joe Montana Sport Talk Football.
Right.
You
Yeah.
remember that one?
No.
That might have
No.
even been before you jumped into the video games. I'm only a couple years older than you. I'm 33. What are you, 30? You just turned
Yeah.
30?
Yeah.
So
I just turned 30.
no, it's not like I'm ancient.
No, so I don't
No.
remember a Joe Montana game. Like some of my earliest memories of the games I played was, of course, like NBA
Tecmo Bowl.
Jam, Tecmo Bowl football. I remember
Put him
Charles
down. Hut,
Barkley,
hut, hut,
Shut Up
hut,
and
hut.
Slam. Yeah, um,
Oh, that's
those
good
those
stuff.
games. Yeah, you know what? And growing up, and I kind of resent my mother for this. Not seriously, but growing up, she never let my younger brother and I play with guns, whether it was toy guns.
Like Nerf or was they
Well,
those
oh
Nerf
yeah,
guns?
yeah.
Yeah.
So Nerf guns. I couldn't have Nerf guns. I couldn't have action figures with guns. Although we did have the little green plastic army men. Um, but like she just wouldn't let us play with guns. And when it came to video games, she would not let us play fighting video games and or violent video games and video games with guns. So it pretty much limited me to either Mario or sports.
Yeah,
Now,
gotcha.
when I went over my cousin's house, I was able to play games with guns. But I remember me wanting
GoldenEye.
to yeah, right, right. I remember me wanting to buy a boxing game, and I think it was WCW Monday Nitro for the first PlayStation. And like it literally took an act of Congress and took all of my uncles and aunts convincing her that that wasn't a bad game for her to let me get a wrestling game. It's oh man. But
Oh,
yeah.
good
Anyway,
stuff. Good
the
stuff.
the tech in your room, or
No,
office. I mean,
so that's what, and I told you about the fourth generation Apple TV,
yeah.
which I love that thing. It's pretty nice, and the updates coming to it look good. I have next to my video game consoles my new NAS drive I'm hooking up.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and then of course with all this stuff, I have my main router and like two network switches in here. Just to the I prefer anything I can hardwire. I definitely prefer to hardwire over wireless because even though the wireless speeds are getting pretty good, I I just like the consistency of hardwiring. It's just you don't have any signal loss or any issues like that you deal with. So like my Apple TV, all my game consoles, the NAS drive are all a Cat 6 cable running from my router or from one of the switches, the gigabit switches. Because
Yeah.
routers usually only have 4 ports. That gets taken up quickly, you know.
All right.
um, I got my main Windows 10 gaming machine, which we are recording on and broadcasting live on, and then I got the Mac Mini that records the podcasting audio. Along that, it's just like the mixer and stuff for the audio. It's a lot of tech that supports all this. I'm not gonna go over every specific. We have one iPad, the iPad Air 2,
Okay.
which I love, and the camera. When we upgraded that camera I told you about, my daughter
Your
has.
NX1. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have the Samsung NX1 camera, which is, I really love this camera. It's an awesome camera. Now, I had mentioned to you before, one of the reasons I went with the Samsung NX1 over the Canon and Nikon was Canon and Nikon didn't seem to be as good about updating the software on it. Once again, it's all you get the good
All about the
hardware,
software. Yeah.
but it's the software. And Canon and Nikon have, some would even argue better hardware than the Samsung NX1, right? But I really wanted the software updates and getting the new features, which for like the first year I had it, man, Samsung was on it. They gave like 3 or 4 nice firmware updates and updated a whole bunch of features and fixed the little issues. But then it's just kind of gone dry and dormant over the past 6 months or ever. It's been a while since they've released the firmware update. So,
Man, just
you
bomb
know,
them on Twitter. Just like send them
yeah.
nonstop
What's
messages
going
on
on? What's
Twitter,
going
like,
on?
"Hey, update the software, update it,
Update.
update
Well,
it."
the
Yeah.
problem is I'm feeling a little spoiled because I actually don't know what they can add to it. I just,
Right.
I get so used to getting my yearly update from Apple where I get,
Tell them to
new
update it with like
features.
Periscope streaming, so you can
Yeah,
record from
exactly.
the
I don't
camera
know
and
what I
just.
need. I just know I need an update, man. but
But
and then one of the last things, which is a fairly newer addition, is I do got an Android device. It's the
it's up.
NVIDIA
Yeah.
Tablet K1, I believe, and it's been really awesome. In fact, they just sent another system update, and I expect them when Android N comes out to update that as well. But it's been really cool checking that out, and the Google Play Store has come a long ways, man, because it used to be they got the the bad end of all the apps. They just weren't quite developed at the same pace and whatnot. But all the apps I use now they almost look the same as even on iOS. They function similar and they all work great. I actually really like that tablet for $199. That's a really nice 8-inch tablet that
Yeah.
NVIDIA is going to really keep updated. So
Nice, nice.
I think that's the main. I won't go like I said into details. You know, there's more technology, and everyone has like the cable drawer of infinite
Oh,
depth
cables. Yeah.
or the different stuff like that. But that's pretty much it. You know, the camera is one of the
Yeah.
things. The NX1 is one of the things that I do want to take some more time. I've learned quite a bit on using it. It takes amazing pictures. It's so cool to have that blurry background look when you're taking pictures, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that you get with the nice high-end cameras. So, you know, learning how to use that more. What I've been doing is offering my services at, you know, like once again, Taekwondo, martial arts, just bringing it in and taking pictures and then posting it on their social media accounts or something like that.
Yeah.
Just so it gives me an opportunity to practice and get better, because photography it's kind of complicated, but it's one of those things I want to tackle. It's along with better storage, which is that NAS drive, which I'm hoping to create some content around too, because I think that's going to be a game changer once I get that set up. So, but that's it in the bedroom. Now I'm looking to my left, looking to my right. That's it for technology.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm learning that photography is almost like what you said earlier about cooking. That it's at least one person in your family needs to know how to cook. Well, with all of the pictures, all of the devices or hardware that's around, pictures are taking much more today than they were 5, 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
So someone in your family needs to know how to take a decent picture that's going to last for generations to come.
Yeah, take the picture as you find out quickly is where do you store them and not lose them and those kind of things.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like even right now, and I try to take it, they just end up on flash drives, on external hard drives. Like it's amazing how pictures end up all over the place and not in one cohesive spot. But you had a question though before I finished off that thing before we went into wrap. What was that again? Remind me.
Oh,
Oh,
so I actually just switched it to rapid fire
oh, okay. It's rapid
because
fire time. Rapid fire.
yeah, because it really doesn't need that long of an explanation. I just had it as pretty much a backup question just in case we
Gotcha.
run out of just in case Nathan, you are very tight-lipped. I was gonna say, okay, well, I can always just ask him more questions, but
No, I was good. I
but,
was good
but
today. I try to elaborate. I try to be a
right,
little bit
right.
right. Here, let me see if I can find some rapid fire music. Let me see which one of these is going to be good here. That's as good as any.
All right. Okay, rapid fire time. Nathan, who are you voting for in November and why? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm
Presidential.
joking. No,
Well, I
no,
will say
don't.
this. I will say this. I'm actually not registered as Republican or Democrat currently, which kind
Right.
of stunk because they didn't allow me to vote in the primaries.
Oh yeah.
I guess just because I didn't pick a side. No, I actually don't have a. A lot of people don't like to jump into that. I'm probably not going to vote for Trump. I can pretty much confidently say that one. There's actually a cool website that I sent you. I think it's called isidewith.com. Did you?
Yes.
You
Yes.
took a look at that, and I thought that was actually an interesting way of you just fill out the issues, and I'm screwing up rapid fire, so
No.
I'll
No. You did.
sideline this real quick, but
No. Talk about it.
isidewith.com. You get to check out a candidate that's right for you. So go ahead, Ray. Keep going on the rapid fire.
Yeah. I did that, and I'm not afraid to say it. Although I honestly don't know who I'm voting for. When you sent me that website, I went and I answered the questions. Like I was surprised how libertarian my views fell. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
basically
what
me
that says
too.
about me, but yeah, I don't know.
I
But
had
okay.
a libertarian, a green, 3 libertarians, a green, and a 1 Democrat. I think top 5. But go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So, what is the one question that you get asked the most from those seeking technology help?
Good question. Give me 1 second. Process. How do you like it?
How do you like it?
And it's usually basically they'll see some type of technology I have. Like I'd say that recently it'd be my Apple Watch,
Yeah.
and they want how do you like it?
And you're
I
like,
think
well,
that's
it's on my wrist, so
yeah.
obviously I like it. Nah.
So that's the best one I can come with rapid, but
Okay.
we can talk a little after. Keep going.
For me, the number one question I always get is iPhone or Android. And
Mm.
so I mean, man, that's like the age-old question, right? It's like Republican or Democrat, you
Yeah.
know, iPhone or Android. But
Both, man, both.
right. Okay. What is the most prized piece of technology that you have ever owned?
Well, this one's this one's a little tough. Uh, Because it would have been game consoles at some point, but if you ask like right now, like I would definitely still say iPhone.
Okay.
Just
All
because
right.
like you know, it's one of those things. If I can't leave the house without it, it has to be one of my
Right.
most prized possessions. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Def- Okay. What is your most favorite app of all time, or software application, whatever, whether it's a mobile app or just, well, no, mobile app. What is your most favorite mobile app of all time?
Oh man, tough one, tough one. All time. I'm gonna have to go. I mean, obviously, most used is iMessage. We talked about that earlier, but one of my favorites, I'd have to actually say, and especially life changing, the podcast app. I mean, it sounds kind of
Wow. Yeah.
like it's kind of one of those things coming on a podcast saying that we have a podcast. Of
Right.
course, I'm gonna say the podcast app, but no, man, listening so many podcasts, it's changed my life. I've learned so much from all these awesome free content people put out. So I would be really bummed if there wasn't a podcast app tomorrow. So I'd have to say podcast app.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you're given two choices, and um, I was racking my brain trying to say this correctly. So you, hopefully, you get the gist. But
Gotcha.
which one of these two choices would you choose, and why? Choice number one is live in our current world with people, but you cannot have any technology. Or would you rather live secluded where you have no access to people physically, but you can have all the tech in the world, and basically you can still have access to people through technology, but you can't have physical access with them? Which would you choose?
Oh, that's a tough one. So you're basically saying I live on an island. I can still Skype everyone, but I never
Right.
get to see them in person.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough, but I'd actually have to say I do like to have people around. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
something about it. I can say that with confidence just because trying to start my own business, I'm being at home a lot by myself.
Yeah.
I know the effects that kind of being alone, sometimes it does stink. This is so tough though, but technology's changed. That's a good question, man. I got to throw that back at you real quick. What would you say? Yeah, see, it's tough.
Yeah,
'Cause
it
I don't
is.
think I
I
think
don't
I'd
have an
wanna
answer
have people
for it.
around me.
Yeah.
Like, let me ask you a follow up. If I have the people around me, do I know technology exists, but I just can't use it, or am I oblivious? Because if I'm oblivious, I would say the people.
Well, no. What if? No, it's actually in this current world. So pretty much
Oh,
everyone
this
has
current world.
smartphones. Yeah, everyone have everything, and it's like the technology there, but you can't use any of it. It forces you, like you're forced to have one-on-one interaction like all the time.
Saying it that way, now I'm starting to lean back towards technology.
Right. But the reason why I thought about that question and I asked it because it just shows you how now people, and myself included, I'm like, did you ever think you would ever get to a point where you would choose a machine over live people? But we are. Our phones are machines, and the technology that we own, our computers are machines. But we're actually at the point to where we're thinking about choosing machines over real people.
Yeah, luckily it's at a point where it's connecting us to real people.
Yeah, exactly.
But pretty soon with AI, that might
Yeah.
not be, and VR, that may not be the case. We'll see.
All right. All right. Well, I have two more questions, and then after that, man, we can wrap this up. What tech development are you most excited about, and which one are you least excited about?
One of the ones I've definitely been least excited about. I've been a big home theater person for a long time, even though I don't have a home theater currently.
Yeah.
I never was into 3D.
Okay.
3D TVs, 3D movies. The movies that go in the, you can go see movies right now in the theater at 3D, and I don't care to put those glasses on.
Right.
Now, in that same vein, I think maybe 3D done right is more VR, and that actually is probably one of my most interesting things, right?
Yeah.
Or things that I'm interested in. So I think it's going to take a while to get that right, but I think VR is going to be pretty cool on some of the stuff you're going to be able to do with that in the future.
Okay.
So yeah.
What about least excited? Is that 3D?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'd say like
okay.
the 3. You know, I just think
Yeah.
that's almost like gimmicky. You know what I mean?
It is.
It gives me a headache even.
Yeah, I remember HTC. I was working for Sprint at the time. HTC came out with a phone called the Evo 3D. Man, that phone was so whack.
It's just like,
I mean, that's that. Now HTC make great phones, but it's just a whole 3D part. Man, it was so gimmicky, and they actually had like two cameras, I think, on the back, and you flip a little switch on the side of the phone that makes it layered or makes it 3D. I mean, it was an awesome concept, but it just they just didn't execute on it.
yeah, it's just and even like the 3DS.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I just put it in 2D mode and play my games. Man. I don't-
All right, last question. If you had the attention of every single family tech guy or gal out there in the world right now, what is the one thing that you would tell them?
Ooh man, every single family tech guy out there.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
would I say? Well,
Every single household, you have their attention right now.
I would say, you know, of course, I'm a big privacy advocate, so I would say let's keep fighting for the, you know, because we have all these elections and stuff coming up, and these candidates, like you said, the first question was a political one, but I won't say unfortunately, but these are the people that make the decisions. You gotta make your voice heard. If you're into privacy as much as I am, then at some point we're going to have to relay that information to our local and national officials, or maybe if you live in a different country. And I don't know, we're going to, as technology gets more and more you know, in everyone's hands, and privacy with the internet becomes less and less, I still feel like we got to hold on to some piece of privacy on some level, you know. So
So, as a follow up to that, let me ask you this question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
mhm.
Are you pro Eric Snowden, or are you against him?
I'd say I'm pro.
Pro
I
Snowden.
think I'd pretty much say I've been pro Snowden. You know, I'm not. I don't think. I know a lot of people think do the what do they call it? What do they call it? Spies when they flip on you and stuff like that.
Oh, like he's a traitor or
yeah,
like
yeah. I don't see
espionage
that.
or
I
something?
see that as you know, I try to look at it from, and you know, if I was in that person's shoes. And here, I'll go ahead and fade the music out a little bit from that, but I see, you know, I watched some of the documentary stuff that came up on, I think it was HBO and whatnot, just to try to see his side of the story too. And you know, if I saw some of the stuff happening, and you know, I try to wonder what would I think if, you know, I seen that you know, NSA or CIA or these agencies are just recording everyone and invading all this privacy. You know, there's some like moral debate I'm sure that goes on in your head. Like, do I let everyone know? Like, and how can I actually make change? If I go to my higher ups or go to the proper channels, is change going to happen, or do I need to make this a bigger deal? You know what I mean? Like almost how he kind of had to make it a big deal to, you know, get that information out there. So I don't know. Uh, I'm kind of. I'll just say overall, I'm glad that he is put that information out there, and that there's a debate going on around it at all, rather than the government or anyone just making the decision for us. So that's what I would say is the positive out of it.
Well, Nathan, man, this has been an absolute pleasure. I have learned so much more about you than what I already knew. Thank you so much for being forthright. If I can even talk right now, thank
It's
you for
live, but don't worry, it's live, man.
right. Thank you for being so honest, and thank you for going into great detail the way that you did. Man, this has been an absolute pleasure, and
It's
I
fun.
look forward to our future episodes together, and thank you all for listening to this. I hope that you got as much out of it as I did.
No, it was totally a
Yeah.
pleasure, man. And yeah, those are some good questions. I don't know. I think you out interviewed me versus the other last week's episode. So I think you did a good job, man. Thanks again.
Well, both was great, and we do this to create value for each and every household that is listening to us. And so, with that, we're going to wrap things up. If you want to contact us, contact at familytechguys.com. Thank you so much for listening. Join us again next week. And every household needs a tech savvy parent. You should be yours. Take care.